are you doing? Getting in the frame there? Say hi to internet land there, Chungus. That is one of our baby dragons. He's called Chungus. Bought him off the internet somewhere. Anyway, how'd you all like the intro music there provided by YouTube? I said, here, use this music. I was like, okay. It's free for me. Anyway, how you all doing? Here's Gen X Man back with another video. It is Tabletop Tuesday, so I thought about doing some tabletopping. And the one thing that kept re swirling around in my brain, I realized there's a lot of room in there for it to swirl around and you hold the jokes in the comments. Was that I really like one of the things like when I would run a game with other people instead of just solo playing. One of the things that they were always asking was like, where am I going with this? And this is even more so with Marvel superheroes because there's such a wide variety of possibilities and just themes and characters out there and such. Not that there isn't in other games, but like if you sit down to play D&D, you kind of got the classes. You got your fighter, mage, thief, priest, all that kind of stuff. So it kind of pushes like as people are rolling up their characters, at least half of them are going to have an idea what role they want to fill, and they'll do the rolls and see, who's going where, and then you'll have the outlier saying like, "Well, we're weak on this thing, so let me make this character." In Marvel superheroes, it's a little different because the game itself is not as dependent on having a certain party structure to succeed. While it is extremely helpful, it's absolutely not required. So yeah, some players can find themselves floundering when they roll up their abilities and their powers and their talents and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Where am I going with this? And I was like, you know what? That make a nice little video. And I thought about jumping to some other system, but I was just like, I just keep coming back to this idea. So I was like, you know what, let's explore it one more time. I'm sure people will enjoy it. I also had the added thought of we're going to roll up a character today, and I'm going to show the associations and the thought process that goes on when I make a character and when I am coaching players on where to go with their characters if they need a little push. And then what I was thinking was like maybe next week I could do some solo play with this character and we'll just see what happens with him. So it'd be fun. But anyway, starting out, I always pre-fill out a little index card. I don't know if you all can see that very well, but I put the phase, the the HKRP, the powers, or for this area, the talents, contacts. And the reason I do that is because these things are dirt cheap. But anyway, enough about that. Our Marvel Superheroes dice. Blue goes first, as it always has. So we're going to launch right into the character generation. Now, I have an origin in mind. I think I'm going to go altered human because I have a thought about what kind of character this is. So with altered humans, and actually we're gonna be using ultimate powers here because it is amazing. And we are going to go for what is this? Mutant induced is what they call it in the Ultimate Powers. In the base set, it's altered human, and this is mutant induced, induced mutation. Hero started life normal, something happened, a la Fantastic Four, Hulk, etc. Random ranks are rolled on column one, your primary abilities, and you get to raise any primary ability one column shift. Very neat, straightforward. I like it. Keep it simple for this example. So we're going to roll up some abilities here real quick. Sorry, I can't show you my rolls yet. I don't have a secondary camera. So, but anyway, our first roll is a 60. And we are looking on column one and we get excellent in our second roll. We get an 09. Leash. 09 is a poor. And as Matt Mercer said, low ability scores are RP gold. We got a 58. It's probably going to be another, yep, another excellent. That's 3 out of 7. We got a 90. Oh, hello. We got a 90, folks. We got a 90. We got incredible. That sounds exciting for something. We got a 29, and that is going to be a good. I like that this character ain't like ridiculously OP. God, this kind of characters get boring real fast. We got a 17, which is a typical. All right. And finally, we have a 64. That's going to actually push us into remarkable territory, which is higher than maximum human abilities usually. So yeah, those are our 7 primary abilities. We're not going to worry about weaknesses yet. Weakness is a section in the Ultimate Powers book that says, every hero has a weakness. Yeah, like werewolves and silver bullets, vampires and stakes, etc., etc. We're not going to fool about with that right yet. Like I said, I got a concept in mind, but I want to see how it plays out with our little random dude here. We roll a 35 for his powers. That is going to give us a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5. Now, that's what the slash means. The first column is like it says 3/5. The first number is what you get, period. You get 3 powers. You can raise yourself up to 5 powers by decreasing your resources. Now, every time you buy another power, it's going to cost you 2 resource ranks. So it's really expensive. Most of the time, I don't fool with it. So we got 3 of 5 powers. Let's just roll the first 3 and see what we get. We get 93. That's going to give us a travel power, which does not jive with the idea I had. So we'll see where this goes. We get an O5. Now that is defensive. Now that one is exciting. Defensives are body armors, force fields, resistances, all that kind of stuff. And we get an 82. And that's going to be physical enhancement. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas. This is looking more like the idea I had. Now, before we decide on powers, I always like to jump to talents to kind of inform what kind of character this is by itself. We roll 12, which means no initial 0/3, no initial talents. That actually plays into the idea I had. And might as well do the contacts. 60, 2 of 6. So, fella is reasonably popular. Finally, we need to roll his resource ranks in case he wants to buy a talent or a power or so forth. For that, you have to go to the advanced set player's handbook, and it's right there in character creation. It is not reprinted into the Ultimate Powers book for whatever reason. I guess they didn't want to cover that in that one. 43 means no change. So all characters start out with typical resources. His doesn't change, so he's got typical resources. He's a Joe Schmo. Exactly like what I was thinking. Initial popularity is 10, raised by 10 if his secret identity is already known, which I mean, I'm assuming it is. So he's going to have a 20 popularity. He's very popular. Now here's the point of the video. Here's where we get in the nitty gritty. He has 3 powers. He has travel, defensive, and physical. And after that, when you go into travel, you have all sorts of things. You can do such esoteric things as astral body and dimensional travel and things such as that. But you can also do the more mundane things: flying, levitation, gliding. You can also do terrestrial bound movement, such as leaping, digging, running, swimming, etc. And you can have the plane chain true flight, a la Superman, Rogue, etc. So he's obviously got something he can do to travel great distances at speed. Okay. Now the defensive and the physical, both of these interest me greatly because the concept I was having. Now, if y'all have read The Immortal Hulk, which I highly recommend, Al Ewing was a writer on that. I don't remember the artist or artists, but that is an excellent comic book. It runs for 10 or 11 collected volumes. You can find them on Amazon for a pittance, under $10 a piece. Very nice. The but they put forth this greater theory. Al Ewing puts forth this greater theory of where the Hulk comes from, what's responsible for his origin, why he keeps not dying, coming back. Explains it very, very well. The entire time I'm reading the series, I'm getting this idea, I'm getting this inspiration. All these gamma mutates, as they call them in the comic book, they all come from exposure to gamma. Not all of them require all that much exposure, although most of them do. Most of them are irradiated through something crazy. But it almost seemed like anyone who comes into contact with the gamma gets changed by the gamma. And there's a reason for it in the comic book. In the comic book, you'll see that there's an entity, the one below all. And when someone gets gamma irradiated, they go pay him a visit. And it's almost as if it's mystically or preordained. Like their life has always pushed them to this point, and now they've ended up here. And now they're facing the extraplanar power that either has influenced their life to this end or has been waiting for them knowing they would come to this end or is taking advantage of a situation masterfully, which doesn't really seem to be the case because it's the one below all speaks in very simplistic terms. We'll put it that way. It doesn't appear to be a high thinking type of entity such as Galactus or whatever, or the Watcher, or so on and so forth. No, this he just kind of he's there. You show up, and he's just like, you bear my mark. You are known to me. You're one of mine. And they're presented with a green door, a red door, etc., etc. Usually a green door, and they come back to life. And you're like, okay, cool. And I was thinking about like, man, I really want to play Gamma Mutate, and it seems like it's really not difficult. Like one of the very first characters you get introduced to is somebody who got the father was experimenting with gamma radiation and tested it out on his son. And it was very brief treatment. And the son just turns into a gamma mutate of just crazy proportions. And you're like, okay, so it is. Furthermore, the Hulk and some of the other gamma mutates get dismembered throughout this. Yeah, spoiler warning. It's a very body horror centric kind of series, and you should just be warned when you when you're reading it. There's going to be guts and everything flying everywhere. But as a kid of the '80s, I'm like, okay, cool. Toxic Avenger, RoboCop, any of that crap. So I just had this thought. I was like, well, what if somebody was a bystander at one of these knockdown, throwdown fights and just saturated and perforated by the remnants of whoever's getting blown apart, the Hulk or Doc Samson, or whoever. And I was like, well, I mean, fluid intermingles. That's just physics or whatever you want to call it. So I was like, so what if somebody was in the blast radius, was in the path, and just got soaked and was just like, oh crap. Now you can stretch a little bit and say like, hello, new gamma mutate. Especially if you take the angle that they were always fated to end up here. And I had this idea, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah. What if we had this gamma mutate that was just this bystander who just got spack and saturated, and now he's a gamma mutate as well. And it's like, was it actually random or was it fated? I guess we'll find out. So that's who else. I'm going to make this guy here. And what I'm leaning for, and I'll try to wrap this up. We're kind of getting long in the tooth in this video. Is that when you're going in defensive, one of the defensives is body armor, but that's more like a suit of armor. So we're not going to look at that. Force fields, maybe possibly. A gamma force field is not something that has been tried yet. But now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. You also have reflection. You can reflect energy bolts. So you're like, I haven't seen much evidence of that. So we're not going to think about that as part of our gamma mutate idea. We also have resistances, and one of which is resist physical, which means anything physical, you just resist it by that power rank. That is what's interests me. But it also overlaps with physical enhancement. So you're like, okay, if I resist physical, it's going to reduce it by X amount. But you can also have armor skin in physical enhancement. You can have armor skin, which is obvious physical differences. When the Hulk green's out, that's armor skin. Ben Grimm, armor skin, etc. You can also have body resistance, which is more like Luke Cage, where it's not evident, but only under a microscope are you, aware of the changes and go, oh, okay, yeah, this is bounce bullets off it. So. But you also have more interesting ideas that I don't know work this guy. You have stuff like digestive adaptation, hypnotic voice, lung adaptability, pheromones, etc., etc. Vocal control, stealth. None of these seem particularly like a gamma mutate type of idea, but now that I'm looking at physical enhancement, I see the one. I see the one that I wanted, that I desperately wanted. I wanted a little insurance because anybody, all you out there who watched my previous video saw Wolverine kind of yeet Sabretooth, just took him out. It was fantastic. But I was thinking, I was like, well, if I'm going to solo play this guy in the next episode, I want a little insurance. Like when you play in Dragonbane solo, there's some mechanics. You have a little insurance to CYA, so that your character doesn't get automatically yeeted every encounter. Where you just you got a chance. As long as you play smart, you got a chance. And I was wanting something like that. And in physical enhancement, there's the perfect ability that goes with gamma mutation, a la Immortal Hulk, etc. And it is regeneration. One of my favorite powers. You know what? I think we're probably going to go with regeneration. We're going to go with resist physical. And for the travel, you know, for the travel, I'm kind of, I mean, of course you can be like, well, obviously take hyper leaping just like the Hulk. I'm like, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. It's like, but you could also go things like Rocket. Maybe he shoots out gamma radiation out of his feet and flies along. You see how these carrier wave gamma radiation travels, through the air as a cosmic ray. But you see how these powers link up with each other and start forming a pattern. But one of the powers in here is called Trouble Seeker. It says you have no control over it. You just end up where trouble is, where you're needed the most. Now think back to the 70s, the Incredible Hulk with Bruce Bixby. Was that what? Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, Lou Ferrigno was the Hulk. You could make an argument that that fella had the power of Trouble Seeker because everywhere he went, trouble just ended up there, and it was trouble uniquely solvable by the Hulk. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. One more role. Oh wait, no, actually, no more roles. I'm sorry. I was thinking we had a talent to determine, but we don't, and that played into the idea that this is just a Joe Schmo. This is just nobody. And now that he's a gamma mutate, his life has changed forever. And I'm thinking about that '70s Incredible Hulk series, and I'm sitting here like, there's an angle here. This could be pretty interesting. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go off and fill in the blanks, maybe do a sketch or two of this here character we have homebrewed today, and I will come back in a week and we will do some solo play with our little buddy here. But anyway, I hope it put a smile on you guys' faces today. I hope you had fun watching me roll up this little dork, and we're gonna go off and develop a name and identity and sketch and so on and so forth. And we will see you in a week and we'll see what happens with our gamma mutate. And thank you all again. Before I go, thank you all for everybody who's stopping by. There's just tons of people. I'm blown away. It's my first month on YouTube, and y'all keep stopping by and giving me views and giving me likes and so on and so forth. I mean, even several of you have subscribed. I'm like, thank you so much. That is really, really kind of y'all, and I appreciate it. And I hope to keep entertaining y'all. But that's all I got for today, and I will see you in the next one. Or, well, I guess that's probably that's somebody else's tag. I'll do something else. I'll see you. Take care.